And
We're live.
yes, we are. Hello, hello, everybody. How are you, family?
Look, there's a
I,
Fluff
yes,
and
there's
a
the
Charmaine.
wild fluff. Hi, Charmaine. How you doing, sis? How you doing, Fluffy bro? And just like at the beginning and everything, I always wait until we get about a half a dozen in here. Then I do the opening, and we just sit and we chat with the people that's in here right now. And thank you all for joining us on our premiere of Survival and Tea. And if I could, I would make the background better.
It'll come
Uh,
in time.
yeah.
So the
It,
alert went out. I just got the alert.
oh, did it?
Yeah, I got mine.
Yay! Oh, yeah. I made this thing look awesome and everything with uh, it was a cup of tea with a knife in it as a stir and had a survival bag and everything. And when I uploaded it, it just said our names. I don't know what happened.
It's like, no. We'll just keep the names.
Right. Oh, so, how are you all doing tonight? How you doing, Charmaine? And Fluffy, we know how you're doing. Oh. So, tonight we are going to be going over who my co-host is, what she does, and how she's been in survival and prepping and emergency preparedness all her life. And then we're going to go over some new things that's been happening with the government and everything, wanting people to prepare a certain way. And it's kind of weird.
Hey, Hensley.
Hey Hensley, how you doing, brother? Get one more in here, and then we will start this. And because I don't know, because this is going to be like bashing in with your stuff. I forgot you do readings on Sunday, sis.
My readings are earlier, so it'll just be I'll do my readings and then come this way. So it's actually fine.
Okay, okay, all right. Yeah, I,
Because my
I
readings
always
have
thought it
already.
was Saturday night for some
Yeah,
reason.
no, it was. Once upon a time, it like in the very beginning, it was Saturday. I moved it
Yeah.
to Sunday because Fluff gets off work early on Sundays.
Okay.
And he likes to be a part of the readings and stuff like that. And so we made a
Yeah.
deal where I would do them on Sundays, but I go live way earlier, about 7 o'clock my time.
Okay.
So between 6:30 and 7, and my readings only ever take, at the most, I've had them take like 2 hours. So that's totally
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
That gives me about a half hour to an hour of play between that and this stream. So
Right.
I think you're hitting a dead zone.
Am I? Yeah. I'm going through. If I didn't have to pick up this report and everything, I wouldn't be going through back roads.
Matt's still working even after working.
Yeah. There was a shooting that happened. And give him a loaner gun until it can be all processed and all that good stuff.
Well, I am not naked, Laura, but I mean that's probably nobody wants to see that. So, but if you're naked, that's great. I am feeling a lot
Laura
better,
doesn't
Hensley.
care. She. All right, so we got 7 in here. I'm gonna go ahead and do the opening. And hopefully the signal's good.
Seems like it for right now.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Come on. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. I was trying to put a depressing tune to it, but yeah, it sounded better when I made it.
Well, I mean, it's still a pretty good intro.
Thank you, sis. So, this is my co Jen, and Jen, go ahead and tell everybody about about your history and everything.
My history. Okay, so I was born 38 years ago, give or take a month or so. No, for reals though. 38 years old. Been reading tarot cards and doing metaphysics for about 24 and a half years. So I have my own channel, Tarot and Tea, as you all see, as many of you know as well. My channel's about 7 years old, but it's kind of had some, I've gone through a divorce, so I've gone back and forth with YouTube a little bit. But
Right.
I am one of those no nonsense, only common sense, brutal, in your face type tarot readers. I tell you like it is, not how you want it, but the way it spells it out. And I use my own personal background in psychology, things like that, to kind of guide you and help you through a life situation. A lot of people think tarot cards, and this can be for some, that they predict the future and a lot of that type of stuff. Like you go to a psychic medium and they're going to tell you, oh, next month, you're going to win the lottery and these are the numbers. That's not me. I don't do that. I've never encountered a reader that could do that. So I'm not going to sell you bullshit. I've never been that person. What I am going to tell you is, okay, this is what the cards tell me. This might be a situation that's presenting itself to you or will be. And let's walk you through it. Let's walk you through the ability for you to escalate yourself in any given life situation. The reason I'm like that is I've been a life coach before. I'm also a full-time mortician, or funeral director, as it is more professionally known as. So I've always been in the business of helping people in really desperate, dire situations. I used to also be an event manager for an event management company that I owned. And I did weddings. I did like the happiest days of people's lives. I also put on large venue productions like concerts and things like that. So I've always been able to run shop really, really well. And because of that, or due, my reasoning for that is I grew up with a military father. My military father is like one of those that was like, always prepare for the worst in any situation. So that way you're prepared. The worst might not come, but be prepared for it because you don't want surprises. Not very many people like those types of surprises in bad situations. So I found Matt through my boyfriend, Mr. Fluffy, and I fell in love with his channel because Matt likewise has that no nonsense approach to survival skills. And I never really considered myself a survivalist in a categorical sense, but I was a natural survivalist just in life sense because I've been through 2 divorces. I've had to go through those divorces with no money and try to fight my way through them and come up from having nothing to rebuilding my life completely, from literally leaving a marriage with only the clothes on my back to refurnishing my life, car, home, everything in it within a span of a year. And that takes a lot. That takes some surviving skills. But I also love camping, and I also love um, going out and investigating the paranormal with my fiance and stuff like that. So I kind of incorporated everything in those categories. And, like in the tarot, I prepare for, I don't really have a prep bag for that, but I mean, I kind of do because I have certain aura sprays that I make to kind of clear the air and kind of clear things out that are stagnant energies, stuff like that. I have specific protocols to keep things flowing positively in my life, when I'm doing divination. But also when I'm hunting in the, paranormal, we have packs that me and my boyfriend do carry that can keep us in a well taken care of mode no matter where we go, if we're out in some wooded area or if we're in a dilapidated building. So I've always kind of kept my survivalist mentality in everything I've done, or the worst case scenario mentality in everything I've done, and prepared myself and those that I go with to come out of that less scathed, or come out of that with the ability to survive, you know. So survival instinct has always been in me, and when I came and met Matt, it just paired really well. We jived really well together from the conversations that we have always had, and I'm always learning something new from him. You've introduced me to other preppers and survivalists, and I've learned from them. So I always have this sense of like, if I'm going to go to battle in anything I do, I'm going to have tools that I need in order to go as far as I possibly can. And that's what kind of brought me to this channel and brought us to having this show today.
Yes, ma'am. And all walks of life. It's not just I am a prepper, I am a survivalist or a homesteader that makes you have that will to survive or be afraid. It it could be anybody from the soccer mom down the street. It could be, anybody that has literally had to survive, had
Uh-oh.
yeah, that's why Tarot is my co-host. That's why I trust her and I listen to her, because she's not a survivalist, but she has the survivor mentality. and she knows. And that's the whole entire thing with this channel. This channel is about the normal people that is going to be left to survive, and what you can do and what you can't do. And thank you for all that, Jen. But in today's discussion, we are going to talk how the government is trying to tell people to prepare, to be ready. And for what reason is the government now, after the epidemic and everything, why is the government now pushing for people to be prepared for everything?
Yeah, the government is definitely pressing for preparation, but never once have said what we're preparing for.
Right.
They've created scarcity in so many components of life, from something as simple as toilet paper to all the way to the petrol in our cars.
Yes.
And see, the thing is, what I told a lot of people when the toilet paper epidemic happened, toilet paper is not, it's a luxury, it's not a necessity. Because
Right.
you can find alternative ways of cleansing your bottom. And a lot of people did. They made reusable toilet paper, basically cutting up cloth, and washing it in a sanitation based solution, or installing bidets, or hopping in the shower afterwards. There are ways to cleanse your, no bits after doing your business. Toilet paper is a luxury, but it's a very nice luxury, but it's a luxury. Now, what the toilet paper epidemic showed me was what people were willing to do for a luxury. People were fighting, breaking into people's homes, cars, stealing it, what have you. We even experienced that at our funeral home. We had people coming in to cleanse the funeral home, sanitize it during that time, with misters and stuff for the virus, and they stole all of our Lysol and all of our toilet paper.
Yes.
And and they wouldn't admit to it, of course, but it was just hilarious how. I mean, it wasn't hilarious at the time. Looking back now, it's hilarious what we're willing to do for conveniences. And most of us didn't stop there. We didn't stop and look at that situation, pardon me, and realize, okay, if they were going to do it with the toilet paper, which, give me a break, we can't produce toilet paper. We couldn't supply that demand. To me, that was BS. I didn't believe that for 1 second. But there was a withholding of it. They needed something, and toilet paper products was simple.
Yes.
And then we went into things as, we're going into lockdown. Pasta, beans, rice, all gone within a matter of hours from stores.
Yes.
Canned goods. That was a time that people were like, what's really going on? Why are we, we're being locked down for, they were telling us 2 weeks. People were preparing for like the apocalypse. I don't blame people for that. I don't blame them for that. But what it made me realize is, weren't people at any point prepared for 2 weeks of their life to be away from a convenience store or anything like that? Growing up with a military father, my dad always had a surplus of canned goods, canned meat, canned vegetable. Granted, my father was Vietnam, so there wasn't a lot of, now we have aluminum bags and stuff like that, but to them, that wasn't in his mind. It was aluminum was going to be shelf stable for years. So he had cans and constantly bought cans of beans and peas, corn, vegetables of any sort, fruit, and canned meats like tuna, potted meats, things like that. We always had in my home at least 2 weeks worth of food. I mean, it probably was more than that if we rationed it properly. It was more like
Right.
3 to 4 weeks worth of food in our home at any given time. That's how I grew up. That was normal to me. So in my home now, I have about 2 to 3 weeks worth of food.
Yes.
Now, would I still go out and add more to it? Yes, I would, because the government is unpredictable. So what they say is 2 weeks could turn into 4, 6, infinity. We don't know.
Yes.
So I always do keep a surplus of food. Like if I'm buying tuna for Fluff for his lunches, I buy him 2 weeks worth.
Right.
Things like that. But a lot of people still, and because we've also created a influctuation of cost on everything, people cannot afford to buy more than maybe a week's worth at a time or a paycheck's worth of food at a time. And
Yes.
the government's asking you to prepare, but it is increasing the cost of everything exponentially to where, how do you prepare? And that is where the average person is getting very frightened.
Right.
And what I tell my daughters, I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter. And I tell them, your mom knows they know mommy knows how to survive. I've survived having nothing. Like not even, I've been negative in the bank, no food, no nothing, like coming out of my divorce. So my daughters have gained that trust with me of like, mom will find a way. And
Right.
because I've been put in such dire situations where I'm absence of any luxury, I've learned how to survive. So I bestow that in my kids or anybody who cares to listen. Make
Yes.
sure you have this. Will this go bad? Buy extra. Especially as a woman where we have feminine care product needs, where we
Yes.
have to care for that part of our component of our being. That's not always found in a lot of the survival groups or in a
Right.
lot of, it's not talked about heavily. So I've had to like distill into some people, like, if you need to this will help you get by. This will
Yep.
keep you, how to make reusable pads, things like that, to facilitate that need. So if you do have a need, like let's say you're a diabetic and you have a need for food at regular intervals, you've
Mm-hmm.
got to learn how to ration per your condition and what is
Yes.
dependable for that. Or if you have high blood pressure and you can't eat a lot of these high sodium food products like MREs and stuff like that, that have a higher shelf life, but they
Yes.
are loaded with sodium, you need to figure out what's going to work for your body, what's going to work in your condition. And a lot of people will just run out. They're going to run out and buy everything that's tinned. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of canned goods and stuff like that, not realizing like, okay, you bought a bunch of canned goods, but did you follow like food nutritional needs for your body? Or did
Right.
you just go out and buy 100 cans of green beans? So there's, if you don't have the dare I say it's common sense, because it is, but
Yep.
it's not common sense enough because not enough people know about it. So how common is it? That's what I look at, and that's what I see the government is not putting out there, because they're not telling you how to prepare, what to prepare for. They're not making us prepared ready, or
Yes.
prepared intelligent. So you have to find people that are willing to spend that, few moments with you to get you at least 2 weeks ready. 2 weeks
Yes.
is bare bones minimum. 2 weeks of food, 2 weeks of water. But when
Yes.
those 2 weeks are over, then what? So you go a little deeper and learning how to filtrate water, learning how to create more food, learning where to go to get fresh water, how to hunt if need be. Yeah, these seem like dramatic situations until something does happen. And trust me, in the past, in our history, even in America, it has happened. When the Great Depression happened, people were eating mites and bugs that were in foods,
Yes.
calling it protein and iron. What are they called, the little the things that grow on flour, the little thing,
The
what I'm talking,
weevils.
weevils, yes. I watched a movie as a child where they were counting the little boy was counting how many weevils were in his oats. And because he was considering that how much protein he got that day.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize, like, if and when that does occur, which, come on, look what's going on right now. It's a huge possibility. It's more of a possibility than it isn't a possibility for us to go into a dark depressional time where survival instincts have to kick in. You know, is it going to be so extreme as you're going to go out and hunt deer and stuff like that? Maybe, if that's a resource available. But there is going to be a need for you to be able to at least learn how to ration out your food, ration out your supplies, things like that. So where I see the government is controlling luxury items to create that scarcity, you don't have to be afraid if you know how to ration. Right. You don't have to live in their fear bubble if you know how to prioritize what you have. Consider what is a luxury and diminish it out of your core existence if need be, by creating items that are reusable, recyclable, things like that, resanitizable, things of that nature.
Cool.
I have a specific soap that I carry a gallon of, the Dr. Bronner's. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it is it's a very old school essential oil based soap that is used for cleaning everything from wound care to washing your hair, your body, your home. And it sanitizes, it degreases, things like that. It's very liquidy, but I keep about a gallon of that at all times because, number one, it's amazing for washing your face. If you have any acne issues, I suggest it. But also, it is a non-toxic cleaner that if I needed to cycle that out of water, I could. Right. And if I needed to use that for wound wash, if I needed to use that for anything, washing my clothes, I can, and I can cycle that out of the water. Sounds extreme, but in those times where extreme is the reality, that's what I have to think about. You also need to think about, at those points, money isn't your top priority. It's the supplies of which you can receive with what, if you have to barter and trade or whatever you need to do, but also making sure that you have proper tools and stuff like that. Whatever, you yourself are your first tool in survival. Yeah. And that's what you've taught me is you are your best tool. Make sure you're always sharp. And, making sure that you have tools for hunting, cutting, cooking, making them more universally rounded so you don't have to have as much of something or depend on the luxury of something. So that's something that if we kind of, dare I say, wash our brains out of the luxury mentality, because the government has given us a lot of luxury. They've made us lazy as all get out, where we're like, I have to have that. I have to. No, you don't. You really don't. It's a luxury. Yes. Depend on what is a necessity. And when you start thinking about what is necessary, it's a lot lighter than the luxury. And so if we get out of the government's mentality of control, and they control us with luxuries because they've made us fat with luxury. We become gluttonous. If we diminish and reduce down, we don't have the dependent ability that, codependency on them. They can't control you as much. So this becomes a time where you do have to become educated. You do have to make your number one tool, the sharpest one in your arsenal, and become intelligent, impregnate your mind and germinate with what is available to you. Find people that can provide you that resource, that knowledge. And trust me, it sounds, I know when I first started thinking into it and everything, when I was in my 20s, I was like, this is like Survivor Man, what you see on like, the History Channel and stuff. Like, this doesn't really happen, right? Well, we just watched a huge part of history unfold. Yes, and it does happen. And we keep seeing these historic events happen one after another in very close proximity. So if that's not a wake-up call in some degree, there's some people you just can't help. But to me, I have very much relied on, or gotten myself fixated mentally on the mindset of how do I keep my family alive, healthy, and taking care of with their needs, not their wants, but their needs met for as long of a duration as I possibly can. And I think if a lot of us got into that mindset, the government wouldn't know what to do with us. They really wouldn't.
Right.
You know, they're like, oh no, independent minds, how dare thee? So,
Yeah.
you know, you got to break up the relationship, the toxic relationship that we have co-communicated with the government. You know, the government was supposed to be there to help us, but in some ways they are. Don't think I'm trying to be like this controversial person. I'm not. It's just a
No.
reality. That, you know, they do provide help, but it's help under their regulations. And that may not be the best help to you. That may not be the best help to me or anybody. So you got to start using your wherewithal.
Oh yeah. This is why I love tarot. But the main mindset that the US government is now putting into people's minds and everything is having there is a national government checklist that you have to fill out and make sure, and you send it to the FEMA uh, branch, and FEMA grades you on what items and everything that you have and what you bought. And to me, that seems like the government is keeping track on us even more because they want to know who has the top of the money and who has the bottom of the money. And if they have the power to grade you and tell you that you need this specific item compared to that specific item, how are they helping us in reality? They are more likely controlling us and telling us
Like a
to
carrot on a
oversee.
stick.
Right. And with the fear and the uncertainty of everything that's going on in the past 2 years, these people are able to be controlled, to be able. And I read an article yesterday that the survival product industry is a almost $4.5 billion business a year ever since 2020. And that is outrageous. They know they can control humans, but with fear, and make people understand, make people do whatever that they whim them to do. And in this, the majority of people are saying, Daddy, Daddy Sam, Uncle Sam, is this okay for me? Is this okay for me? What should I do by the government standards, even though none of the people in any of these offices have ever had to come to a conclusion of, if I'm eating this week, or am I paying my car bill, my car payment, or am I going to be able to afford gas, or do I need to buy groceries? And because most of these people in these government offices make more money than what we will ever see in our lifetime in 1 year. So what gives them the right to tell us how to live, how to survive, how to have any tool, unless it's a name brand that they tell us to buy? It goes all the way back to consumership. Oh crap, hold on, I'm here. I have to go and take care of a report and everything. Can you see the chat, Jen?
I can.
Okay. Anybody that's in here, if you have any questions or whatever, ask. You can go ahead and ask away, and she will answer you with the best of her knowledge. And I should be back in about 10 minutes. Okay. Give me 10 minutes and I'll be right back. Sorry, Jen. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Love you, sis. I'll be right back.
But yeah, to kind of piggyback off the direction Matt was going in, the government, they've always had that kind of control. The consumer is in control. And that's why scarcity makes prices go up, things inflate. They literally tug and pull in the directional of where they want things to go. They did it recently with cars, automobiles, making it to where there was a diminished stock of ready available vehicles. I don't know if everybody else experienced it, but I know in Southern California, because my father used to own a car lot, the same car lot once upon a time that he ran, it used to be, when he was there, flourished with cars, about 100 and so cars on stock available at any time, different makes and marks, and you could pick whatever color you wanted. I drove past it not 6 months ago, and there was maybe 10, 15 ready available vehicles. And they were saying, it's because of that certain part that, isn't able to be manufactured, or they're having trouble manufacturing right now. So having to do with the starter of the vehicles, so that they weren't able to mass produce vehicles as they were, making it difficult to get any type of vehicle that you necessarily wanted. You were pretty much, if you needed a vehicle then and there, you were at the disposal to what was available on that car lot, which may not have even been anywhere near the type of vehicle you wanted. I purchased a vehicle just over a year and a half ago, and there was, still a decent amount of vehicles on the lot when I went, just not as many colors. And, how every vehicle has a different markup of some sort, different systematics and bells and whistles in it. So I ended up having to purchase this top of the line vehicle, which I probably did pretty much overpay for. But it was what I needed at the time, because going through a divorce, having to give my vehicle back, I needed something reliable and dependable and size-wise right for my family. And, the government has its hands on all of that. If they don't want you purchasing something, they'll take it away. They will make it unavailable to you. And they'll have a surplus out of the one that they want you to be purchasing, even if they want to charge $20,000 more for it. So I saw that with the whole car thing, but that goes with pretty much anything else. So if it's going to be, a specific brand of beans that they're like, we are no longer going to be carrying this brand, we're going to phase that out somehow. We're going to say the crops have gone bad, because we want to push forward this bean or this brand of rice or whatever, because it comes from whatever area. And for some reason, whatever reason it may be, they will push that product, that brand, that item. And we've seen it with a lot of things, like, when the PlayStation 5s came out, remember, they were so hard to get. And that's just an example, but where they make it where the demand is so strong and becomes stronger and stronger, and they don't ever have to lessen that price point because the demand meets it, and people are willing to pay double and triple, as we have seen. And the government knows that we are minded that way. It knows that, okay, we've watched them go crazy if we give them a little taste of something, that they'll want more and more and more and more. And we've just become a nation, or a world rather, of consumerism and need versus want. And just like he was saying with the whole reporting to FEMA of what you have, they start knowing at that point what somebody's abilities are with those items, where they stand on their structure, their rating system of whatever it may be. So survival comes in many, many forms. It can come in the form of debt control, being able to survive, the consumerism debt. Uh, well, have a good night, Serge, and have a safe flight. But they start, controlling things in every regard. Like I said, with the whole debt control, knowing most people cannot control their spending because we've become an instant gratification nation where we want things now. So we will put it, on consignment, or we will put it on a credit card, or we will do whatever. And we will create debt, and they make it seem like it's just that's the way everything's done. I don't think I know anybody anymore that is 100% absolved from debt. And that's unfortunate because when I was in my 20s, I knew a handful of people that had no debt, paid everything in cash. And I have gotten to a point because of the situations that I've been in where I have incurred debt. I mean, I have a brand new car that I didn't pay in cash, so I have that debt. But I also have debts from my divorce. I have debts from, having to rebuild my life. I've had to put a lot on credit, So I do have, a little bit of money stashed, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm cutting, I'm cutting my teeth, still here. I'm surviving, you know. I can say I'm surviving, but I do have debt. And I think a lot of us who didn't have a lot of debt, remember when, the housing market tanked and a lot of people lost their homes and stuff? Um, they became really, really upside down in their mortgage and stuff like that. Like those people were still recovering from their debt. And then, the whole pandemic happened. I just don't foresee many people, especially newcomers, people that were teenagers who are now in their early 20s and things like that, being able to even know how to get out of debt or that it's even possible. It is just not shown. It is not something that is bestilled in people anymore. What they do push for is get this next credit card. You see them come in the mail all the time. Apply for this credit card, apply for this credit card. It is put into you more that you need to have revolving credit than it is to pay everything in cash. But also survival could be mental health, surviving, how to keep yourself stable in situations, even in a physical survival situation, keeping your mind mentally stable enough to survive. Even if you had all the supplies you needed, being able to be mentally cognizant in order to stay calm, stay focused, stay aware, things like that. There's a lot of, see, that's good that you had your mortgage paid off then. A lot of people didn't have that ability, especially people who were recently or newly buying. But yeah, there's a lot that survival skills that there's in the tone of survival. It goes into a lot of things in our world that we just don't think of. But yeah, when Matt told me he had to go get a report, I was like, "Oh, you found a Bigfoot." But no, it was just somebody with, they had a shooting incident. So darn. I was like, that could have been cooler if it was Bigfoot. I would have been more excited over that. But no, he's not in the shower. He had to go get an incident report because there was an incident with a shooting type thing, a gun going off type thing. I don't think it's anything too crucial. He just has to get the report for it. So he should be back momentarily.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
There he is. Sorry,
Hey.
I was just going over things that we do just in the simplicities of modern day survival, like debt control, like learning how to pay things and the government's bestilling in us to create more debt rather than to alleviate debt. And so we were just
Right.
kind of going into that because survival is in a multitude of places, not just, gear packs and physical survival, but mental health survival, just
Correct.
learning how to be a cognizant person, being mentally aware.
Yes. You have to be situationally aware of everything.
Yeah.
That means weather. That means what's going on outside. Just like everything that happened in Seattle with all the rioting and everything in Seattle, you have to know how to be able to protect your home and protect your family, whether or not, because you're not always going to be together. You're not always, everybody's going to be at one spot, in a different spot, miles away from each other. What happens if an earthquake happens? What happens if flooding happens and you're not able to get to your other significant other or your children or anything? Do you have backup plans? Do you have where everybody meets together, one specific area that can be reached in any kind of situation? Um, there's always one area that you could get to that is in the center of all, depending on how many people. Most people have children that all go to the same school, or between the same schools. If you're able to get to that one location, get there. Are you ready to be able to pack up and go at a moment's notice? Or will it take time? Most people, they will go into a panic if anything happens, and they will not be able to think straight. So being able to have a lot of food, a lot of water, anything that you direly needs to be in your prepper pantry, but also in takeable totes as well. And if you're able to load up your totes into any kind of vehicle, in the trunk of your car, in the back of your SUV, in the bed of your truck, it's easy enough to grab those totes. Don't worry about whatever's left in your prepper pantry. Take what you can take and get out. You can always come back at a later date, hopefully. But the government has always told you to rely on them. Go to a government safe house. Go to a government installation. Just like here in Texas, we just built a natural disaster relief area, and it holds up to 1,000 people. It has constantly MREs being shipped in, guns, all this stuff, and I guard this place. And it only allows 1,000 people in there, and you have to be selected by a number to be allowed in. And they will give the number 2 weeks before any natural disaster happens. And that makes me wonder, how can they tell if a doomsday natural disaster is going to happen 2 weeks ahead of time? You know what I mean?
That's a pretty precise amount of time.
Correct.
And a long stretch of time, too.
Right. And, and also giving people, the way that they explained it is these certain people are already picked out, and they get a code texted to them, and they come with the code, and it's automatically allowed in. And since I'm a security guard, I have to do the code checks, and they will run false drills, and I will see 5 or 6 buses of people coming in, and I have to sit there and I have to check each individual code, and I have to see if that person matches the same description that is on my card reader because it shows a picture, it shows the number, and it shows like who they are. And I'm supposed to sit there, and if somebody with a different, that's a whole entire different skin or a race that's different, I have to sit there and hold them in containment and find out what happened to the person. Did they steal their cell phone or whatever? And it's like, I have to take care of all these people before I leave and go take care of my family in an emergency. Hell no. I'm going to abandon my post at that time.
It's just awfully specific. And I mean, if they know who they want in
Really,
there, then and they've given them codes, bye. You already figured it out. So I'm leaving. I'm gonna go do me.
yes. Yeah. Take care, Laura. No, it's not. It's not their SSI code. It's a specific 5-digit code, and it's a different code for each person. And they literally come up with a I don't know what the little box is, but it's a white with black kind of like scribbles on it, and I have to show the camera on it, and it reads it. I think they called it an IRF or IFR reader, and it pops up their whole entire information with their code and all this stuff. Really weird.
Some type of elitism or something with that.
Yeah. It I mean, there's a lot of sports, sports stars and everything here in San
Right.
Antonio. There's a lot of high officials like
Yeah.
lawyers and doctors, and they also tell me what their job is on this. Like they have 50 people that are construction workers. They have 50 people, like they have 200 people that are basic common, blue collared workers. And
So they've
the
got like a
rest of
form of Noah's Ark going here. Like they know
this,
exactly. Like yeah, it's
yep,
so for the repopulational purposes or
yeah,
restructuring purposes rather, I guess. But yeah.
I guess so. It's just it's very weird. It's very, I don't know how to say it, like, you know, peculiar, like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and me, I want to know the truth. So I was the one that actually took this contract, and that's why I do it. I don't have any other guards that do it. It's just from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. And there's 2 National Guard snipers up on the top of this building also that keeps people out.
They're listening to your live stream. You're gonna have a black van in front of your house tomorrow.
Oh, I probably will. Probably will. I don't care. Let them come. I got 7 acres.
I'd be like, I've got like Bigfoot back here, so try me.
Right? Yeah. It's like, if they want to come, I know my woods like the back of my hand. So they got to find me, and by the time they find me, I already have a knife in their back, so
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. But yeah, oh, I hope. Let me see if you can still hear me when I do this. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Let me find these. Find these. Where is it? Here we go. Government emergency preparedness protocols. So they are telling people, like how you said 2 weeks, right?
Right.
On here, FEMA is telling people to only prepare for 3 days. Then FEMA should be able to rescue people.
I've never been rescued by anyone in my life, so I'm not going to wait for FEMA to do that for me. But that's that's the mental cushion that like I said, that luxury bubble that they try to present, where they're like, no, you only need 3 days, and then FEMA will get to you. Don't worry, we will get to you. Okay, remember when Katrina happened?
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
not exactly what happened with them. FEMA didn't quite show up in 3 days. So,
Ain't that the truth?
The history is way more obvious than the pretty lip service of governmental bodies telling me that they're going to protect me and my children in the event of a natural disaster.
Right.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of people that you have to go and find. And if you don't have to worry about me and mine as much, and you can go help somebody else, go do that. I'm doing 2 weeks or more.
Correct. They also just posted a low and no cost preparedness checklist. And let's see here. Let's see what they say. Well, earthquakes. They tell people to continuously, always, once a week, do the hold regular, once a week, drop, cover, and hold on drills with your family. Anchor heavy objects like furniture and appliances to walls. Secure fragile and heavy objects from landing on you. And keep a 3-day supply of food and water for each individual that is in your family.
This 3-day thing is just across the board, it seems like, and that's honestly scary.
Yes.
That they're only going to consider 72 hours, and that you're going to be magically rescued along with everybody else in your geographical area that's experiencing the same thing.
Correct. Very correct. And here's what they say about individuals with disabilities. Because, there's a lot of families out there and there's a lot of people that have disabilities that cannot be, say, in wheelchairs, or if they have a mental illness or something. And they say,
I'm prepped for earthquakes, trust me.
Right.
No, because I know a lot of people aren't prepped for them. I live in California, right on the fault lines. I am prepped for earthquakes. When my daughters were young, we had the big Easter earthquake. You can look it up on YouTube, the Easter earthquake of Southern California, the 7.4 earthquake. I was right on the border of California and Mexico when that happened. And some people, I was a county official at the time. And when you work for the county, they mandate you to report to quote headquarters, and you have to go to work. You have to leave your family, which at the time I had a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I was a single mom. And they were requiring me to leave my family to go and red tag buildings that were considerably hazard. So I had to go to the mall with about 3 feet of water that was pilling up in the mall, start tagging stores. It was not a fun time in those next 72 hours, which FEMA did not show up for us. And a lot of people weren't prepared, but
Right.
the community in and of itself got together and took care of its people. Because of the absence of the government having anything for us, because we were declared a natural disaster,
Right.
the government didn't step up for us. To this day, we still have roads closed in that area
Huh.
because they are separated more than 2 feet with a huge crack that goes down. I think one of them is indefinite. It's an indefinite crack that they can't determine how far down it goes.
Oh,
But it is
wow.
spread. It is spread beyond 3 feet, so that road is permanently closed, and
Yeah.
they've had to attempt filling it. But money is an issue, obviously.
Hmm.
But we had, for 72 hours, I was awake, finding people in homes that were obviously destroyed. They were not habitable anymore, having to red tape those, finding those people places to stay. Luckily, local hotels were opened up to people
Right.
that were displaced because we didn't have any place that we could send people other than high school gyms, which give me a freaking break. In certain parts of California where it's 112 degrees, a high school gym with 150, 300 people in it is a disgusting environment.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so that's what they were providing for people. But there is ways you can be prepared and be conscious for earthquakes. And yes, part of it is anchoring, your heavier artwork, mirrors, whatever, making sure that, because I know where I live, I don't keep a lot of glass in high places because during that earthquake, I lost most of my glass stuff, including my
Oh,
glass dining table,
ooh.
which completely shattered. And that thing was 4 inches thick.
Ooh.
And that was the thing that, was it as intelligent of me to own it with a 3 and 4 year old? No, it wasn't. They
Yeah.
told me it was shatterproof. It was like bulletproof glass. Bullshit.
Right.
When that thing hit tile, it shattered. And if my daughters had been under that for any reason, because they tell
Nope.
you go get under a table during an
Yes.
earthquake. What shattered that was my light fixture falling on it and it falling to the ground. So
Mm.
that would have killed my kids.
And then the
But
vibration from the earthquake itself.
yeah, and the aftershocks that occurred were 5 pointers, 6 pointers. You were still, and people were getting sick. They were experiencing vertigo, especially older people, things like that. You can be, depending on where you live, you can be earthquake prepared. Now, the predictability of the earthquakes, based
Right.
off of the instruments that they have, they're always telling us get prepared for the big one. They've been saying that for freaking years. Um, They have. They're always like, and I know when earthquake season is. Most people don't realize when earthquake season is, or that there
Yeah.
is such thing. They'll be like, there's no such thing as earthquake season. Where I live, yes, there is. And I told Fluff the same thing because it was his first time here. I was like, oh, this is when the tectonic plates are going to start moving because we're going from hot to cold and extreme variables where we're rising 30 degrees in a day. You're going to start experiencing some quakes. And he was like, really? How do you know that? And I was like, wait for it. Not 12 hours later, he experienced his first 4 pointer. And he was like, that was an earthquake? And I was like, that's an earthquake. It was probably about 4.2. It was about
Yeah.
4.3. And living in Earthquake Alley, I can tell you the seismic count of the earthquake. The
Right.
day that the 7.4 hit, it sounded like I heard a buffalo coming down the street. I heard that earthquake coming.
Oh, I bet.
And I was like, because I was making, it was Easter Sunday. I was making cupcakes for my kids. And I
Yeah.
just hear this rumble. And I just went, what the fuck? And before I could finish that sentence, the first jolt hit. And there's swayers and there's jolters. Swayers
Yeah.
they swing, they go from side to side. A jolter is what shakes. And if you have a jolter, that's what's going to destroy things. You can have a 7 pointer that sways, it might knock some stuff off the wall, but it's
Right.
not going to destroy your foundation. A jolter will. And that jolter, that first jolt took my oven, my range stove, and pulled it
Yeah.
from the wall about 3 feet that I was
Huh.
standing next to. And then I had to look at my daughters who were sitting on the couch. and above my couch is a huge 12-foot mirror.
Oh,
So I jumped over my stove, over my coffee table, and grabbed my daughters
yeah.
in a MacGyver move that I've never been able to accomplish since. But protected my babies with everything in me. And what did I do? I ran into my front yard because in
Right.
the event of an earthquake, get the hell out of your house.
Yeah.
Don't hide under a unless you have a huge like variance between your where you're at and your front door. Then yeah, go to the nearest thing that's going to, because I live in a 2-story home. Go to the
Right.
nearest thing that's going to protect you. But if your top level falls, your kitchen table's not protecting you. So
Right.
if you can get out of your house, away from the glass and everything else that's going to be falling on you, and get to your front yard and just go to the ground, that's the safest place you can be, respectfully. But
Oh yeah.
if you have power lines near you, be aware of that. Be
Right.
aware that those fall. Be aware that trees fall. And that happened
Yes.
in a lot of places. We had 25-foot trees that fell on top of homes. And it is a very scary time. And a lot of people don't realize, like, I lived in Calexico, California during the big old earthquake.
Yeah.
And working for the county, I was told, even after experiencing that, I still had to report to the county and take care of other people, which
Yeah.
I did do. My dad looked at me and was like, I went to Vietnam when it was my fight. You better go do yours. And
Right.
I spent like the next 3 days tagging buildings, driving water, and everything else where I could. Granted, a lot of power was restored within 24 hours.
Right.
But that's just because San Diego had come down. People from Yuma, Arizona had come down. That area is centralized between two major cities.
Yeah.
So help was available. But most people didn't have phones for days. Cell phones, towers were down, everything was down. There was no communication going in or out. The only
And I bet
people
that
that
created so much chaos.
it created a lot of chaos. The only people that had phones were AT&T. AT&T was the only people that were able to keep their towers going during that time.
Right.
Luckily, I had AT&T at the time, and that is what kept me loyal to them for quite some time until they pissed me off. But in the event that you have stuff like that where you have hardcore, you live in any type of area that's prone to a disaster, like living in Texas or
Yep.
Louisiana or anything like that, where you are prone to a natural disaster, you are in that area. And even being in Texas, certain components by the borders,
Oh
um,
yeah.
stuff like that. I grew up in a border town. Literally, the town I grew up in is Calexico. It's the border of California and Mexico, and that's why it's called
Yep.
Calexico. Um, and literally, I could look outside my door, go down the block, and see the fence, that wonderful
Yep.
fence that everybody talks about. And I grew up knowing that I lived next door to cartel members.
Oh yeah.
I grew up knowing that I knew when I could walk the streets and when I
Yep.
couldn't. It was common sense to me because that's where I grew up with. And even Charmaine, she lives in Arizona.
Right.
She lives like in central, well, not central, but um, she lives by ASU. I'll say that. I don't really want to disclose or dox
Yeah.
where she lives, but she lives by
Yeah.
ASU. Not the nicest area of Arizona, but she
True.
even herself is aware of the protocols of her area.
Oh
And
yeah.
when you live in Tucson, once again, by the border, I lived in Tucson after my divorce. I
Yep.
knew where I could and could not go.
Oh yeah.
You just have to be aware. But there's disasters of any sorts, whether it's natural disasters or man-made disasters, things like that.
Yep.
It's an awareness factor. And whether you are choosing to be prepared is up to you. It is a choice.
Right. Like right here, like where it says California, Arizona, Nevada, and Texas. For people with disabilities, the government wants you to create a support network of people who can help you in a disaster. Keep a contact list in a watertight container in your emergency kit on your electronic devices. and inform your support network and the local Red Cross, FEMA, or any other, what does it say? Any other local authorities where you keep your emergency supplies. You may want to consider giving a trusted member a key to your house or apartment also.
You can kiss my ass with that. I'm not letting someone know
Right,
where I keep all my supplies.
right. Like, why? This is, and they even said if you are on dialysis or other sustaining medical treatment, there will not be any medical stations opened. And be aware of your medical problems.
Yep. Well, we
Your
talked
life
about
is
that.
on the line.
Yeah, we talked about that on Nubs' stream. As a matter of fact, we got a little bit
Yeah,
into survival on that one, but it was a lot about like your being aware of your medical conditions
yeah,
and knowing that the resources in heightened um, disasters aren't going to be, and especially anything that's power sensitive,
right.
um, like a dialysis machine or any type
Yeah,
of life sustaining care. Um, yes, hospitals do have generators, but they're going to use those at their discretion,
yeah. Yes.
and it
And
may
there,
be for you.
and all of that power is already going to be used for the residents that's already in that hospital.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they're not going to be taking anybody else if all their rooms are already filled.
Yeah,
And
like like someone in the chat just said, a lot of people will perish in the first week.
yes,
But
yeah,
that's like Darwinism to me. It's going to be survival of the fittest in your
yes,
first week. And that hysteria that comes with that, like when families are starting to see the first signs of family members going, that
right.
hysteria, it thrushes like tenfolds. And that's when people start bringing out weaponry that makes loud, loud boom sounds.
Yes,
And they start getting ready to, invade homes. Because
right.
if I know where your supplies are and you've made it obvious where your supplies are, guess what I'm going to do? I need your
Yes,
supplies. I need your car because you've kept it with gas.
right.
you know, People are going to start looting, but not in the way that we've seen it on TV. No, no, no. This
Yes.
is going to be like, stuff you've never wanted to hear of or face. Everybody worries about, the military coming in and taking and they will too, trust me. But
Yes.
the nearest, the before the military comes, your neighbor, your neighbor's going to come first. And
Yep.
they're going to try to grab what they can because maybe they weren't as prepared. Or maybe
Yes.
they were, and it's just been over 3 weeks, and
And
now we're
their thought of
seeing,
you. It
yeah,
like if you've always been a nice person and helpful person and everything before the SHTF happened, they're going to believe that you are that same individual and that you are not that you're going to be easily swayed to allow them to have anything they need from what you have.
yeah,
And they're going to be like, oh, Taro's been a sweet, generous, woman to me for the last 5 years, so she won't mind if I come over and I take whatever I need.
yeah. The cup of sugar neighbor, yeah.
Yes.
But they also know if you're the neighbor that always is able to give out that cup of sugar, you have a lot of sugar. At
Right.
least you have sugar. So they
Yes.
kind of know, like your brain goes into that fight or flight where it
Yep.
knows, like, hey, this is the person that always throws these huge block parties. So
Yep.
guess who's going to have a surplus of beverages and God only knows what else. Like, who are you going?
Right.
Whose house are you going to first?
Yeah. That's how it always is. People don't believe when you walk out of that Costco or that Sam's Club or whatever big box store with a huge shopping buggy full of food and material and everything, people don't believe that everybody's eyes are on you. People are
They did it
watching
with
you,
the toilet paper.
right?
People were breaking into people's homes and the cars because they were
Yes,
seeing people, coming out with like the Costco pallet of paper,
right.
and they were like, they'd follow them to their houses and steal their stuff.
Yep,
Like it was real. Like we saw it in those little instances, but
yeah,
in a grander scale where it becomes food or water or other resources. And they've seen that you've come in with, like, how my dad used to do, pallets of
yeah,
tins of food. People are going to be like, yeah, that family always goes to Costco every Sunday and they
yep,
always come out with a flatbed of stuff. They probably got some
yes.
food.
Oh yeah, and it's especially after what with the epidemic and everything, and people, you literally saw people starving and without food in their houses. And those are the people that are going to be coming out. Those are going to be the quote unquote zombies. They're the ones that's going to be doing anything and everything to be able to get and survive. And people believe, people in apartment buildings and close knit gated communities are the ones that your neighbors know everything about you. Like my my aunt-in-law, that she lives in a gated community in Fort Worth, and the
Right.
houses are literally right beside each other. I could reach my hand out of the bathroom and touch the other house. But and everybody knows everybody and knows everybody's little secrets in that community. I
Yeah.
was literally walking up and down the street, and on their neighborhood watch, they posted it like 5 minutes when I was on that road saying, "Does anybody know this individual that's walking up and down the road smoking?" And my aunt had to say yes, that's my nephew-in-law. And but all this stuff is being seen. You think coming in with 15 bags of groceries from the grocery store to stock up your preps, and you live in an apartment, everybody's watching that. Everybody watches.
Yeah, like I used to tell people around Christmas, I was like, I used to hate getting the store, like, the higher end brand stores fashion bags, like, if I went to Dior or anything like that, because I like
Right.
their makeup and shit. Okay, I'm a little bougie like that, but because I have a sensitive face, so I have to buy kind of top shelf or my face breaks out. But I used
Right.
to hate walking around or coming home and pulling those bags out because people don't realize it's just, face cream and moisturizer, right?
Yeah.
They could think that there's a $5,000, $10,000 watch in there. They're gonna bring it in my damn
Yep.
house because they're
Yep.
like, oh, this family had all these packages coming from Amazon and everything.
Yep.
Under their Christmas tree is gonna be bussing, They'll break in your house, steal
Hmm.
every damn thing. So I used to have to be very cautious of how I brought packages in to my home.
Right.
Because of, like, I just didn't want people seeing that I was having stuff delivered. Now we don't even have anything delivered to our home. It all goes to the PO
Hmm.
box. For that reason, like, you don't need to know what comes to my house. We had to have a TV delivered because, do you remember what happened at the Super Bowl, Matt? Or it
Yes.
wasn't even the Super Bowl. It was in the playoffs. Um,
Yes.
Most people don't know, but here you go. I'm a 49ers fan. I have been since I was 5. And when they lost, I got a little upset and I kind of threw a Gatorade bottle at my TV.
And it fell off.
No, I broke it. I smashed the screen.
Mm.
She put a hole in the screen. And I look, and Fluff looks at me and goes, "Damn it! I know you're pissed, but now we don't have a fucking TV. And I told him, I was like, I'll get another fucking TV, all right? So I got him a better TV, but I had to have it delivered because it was around, holiday time, and they didn't have of course, the one TV you want's never fucking in stock. So I had to have it delivered, and I told him, I was like, I really don't want anyone seeing this be delivered, and I don't want the box in my trash because people watch you. They watch what you buy. And they're like, that person has a brand new TV in their house. They have a brand new 16-inch TV. So they know whose house, if they see that you're gone, your cars are gone, they'll watch you to know when you go to work. Who's in that home, all that shit. And they're like, all right, this person's usually gone between 8 and 5. All it takes is one little slip. They'll go in there and clear you out. So I've always been really cautious of, that type of shit.
Oh yeah. I've always told people, stop having Amazon. Yeah, you can get anything and everything in the world on Amazon. I understand. But the bigger the package and the longer it sits on your porch, that draws attention to people. That's why you have these Amazon, hit and run thieves.
Oh yeah.
That's, and if they're pulling out, they're seeing you. If you're a prepper and you do all your online shopping, you get MREs or whatever, and you have them sent through Amazon to your house. Somebody steals one of your packages and finds out, oh, there's 25 MREs in this Amazon box. What else do they have? Because MREs are not cheap.
No.
A street value for an MRE to homeless, I mean, they can get a lot of drugs for one MRE to gangs, and it's the same thing. They're going to say, well, if he has the money to spend this, let's scope out this house. Let's scope out everything that this person's doing. And if you're acting shady and you're acting like people are watching you, and you grab that Amazon box and you snake back into your door, that even brings up more red flags that you are literally trying to hide this shit,
Yeah. So that's what I kind of look at, when I have packages delivered, because around Christmas, I don't have time to go down to every store and battle the store for what my kids want and all this shit. So I do a lot of online ordering. But the P.O. box is what saved us, because I would just put a huge Tupperware tote in the back, and then we would kind of take that Tupperware tote into the backyard and drag that, and that's just the way we did it, because people must think that I bring bodies home from the funeral home, and I don't care. But the best thing is when your neighbors know that you're a mortician and they know you can legally cremate someone. And that's what I tell people. Look what
Cassie just put. She was robbed by her own brother.
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
That blood in SHTF or in hard times, blood is not thicker than water.
Oh no, they'll be the first to come.
Yes,
because they can get in easy. They know they snaked your home. They know what your home's like. They know where you keep things. It's quick. They don't got to
you allowed the bid. You allowed them in, so they see everything.
Exactly.
And as a prepper mindset and everything, I do allow family into my house, but I do not allow families into my prepping room. I do not allow families into my storage area, my gear, the gear that I hold in my attic. I do not let anybody know any of that stuff that I have. They can see whatever I have on my desks, or they can see whatever bag I have in the living room. Yeah, they can take that if they want to, because I got 15 more, But yeah, and that's the thing, if you are going to be prepping, if you are going to be doing this stuff, you do not just say, do not keep your preps in the same place as you keep your normal everyday food. And it's because if they see all your preps literally around the corner being stockpiled in a dual cabinet or whatever, they're going to be like, okay, so you got more than what you're showing, you
Right.
know? Why can't I get this food? Why can't I eat that food? Oh, well, we're keeping that for a special occasion. What kind of special occasion? They start asking questions. And because they're family, you're going to let them know. Don't do that. That is one of your worst downfalls in anything. Sorry, Tara.
No, you're fine. No, I was reading the comments. Yeah, there's a lot of people that think that they're going to be fed. They'll find someone to take care of them in the event something happens. And I've had to tell people, like, if you're going to be a lazy shit and not give a crap and just be, I'm going to go to grandma's house type mentality, don't knock on my door. I ain't feeding you.
Right. And, that was another thing I was going to bring up. The FEMA tells you to go to, like the food pantries and everything, and get your preps from the food pantry. And the food pantry is supposed to help people that are without money, that are
Right.
low income. Why is FEMA and the government telling us to go and take from the food pantries away from other people's mouths? Why?
No, like exactly. We're supposed to be, you have a job, you have an income, you should be considering adding a little bit of it's, even if it's $25 a month,
Yes,
towards preparatory food items or survival items, in a couple, even in 2 paychecks, $50, let's say.
correct.
If done correctly, $50 is 2 weeks worth of food.
Yes.
Now, when I say if done correctly, no, you're not going to be able to go out and get your top of the line sardines at $5 a can,
or
and all this other,
T-bone.
or what people buy, beef jerky.
Yeah.
I'll stick to my tuna. Things like that. I mean, you're not going to be able to get those things. You can get 50-cent items from the Dollar Tree. Well, they don't even have them anymore, but they used to, like dollar items from the Dollar Tree, things like that, or your 99-cent stores that have certain things that you can go to, like spices and things like that. It creates quickly.
Yes. And that's what I always tell people. If don't worry about going and making MREs. Don't worry about going and buying the, like, way I showed on, Nub Stream and everything, the Norm meals and stuff. That's only for your bags. That's not for everyday use. I do $5 a week and for my preps, and I either go to Dollar Tree or 99-cent store, and I just buy beans, rice, and spices, because you can make multiple different flavors, different meals and everything just with spices. And that is the one thing that is going to run out is spices.
Spices. We talked about that, where you got to flavor your food or your body starts to go into a mode of, I don't want to eat, because it's not stimulating for you to eat stuff that ends up, because your body will start tasting things differently or not at all. But Fluff ran into, let me see if I can turn on my camera really quick.
Okay.
Hold on, wait a minute. Here, you show it. That thing is 11 ounces.
$3.64 at Walmart.
It's huge. It's bigger than his head. But it's 11 ounces of wild caught tuna. Okay, let's not consider whether it's not dolphin friendly or whatever. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
when you're
whatever.
hungry, you don't care. But what's
Yeah.
the date on this?
It's good for 3 years.
This is
Nope.
it best used by January 28th, 2025.
And see,
Now,
the thing with the Best Buy dates, the government and grocery stores and everything make you believe that you have to eat it by that time period. I've
you
had
don't.
cans of tuna in my preps that were 3 years over the expiration date on it and opened up and still is good.
Yep.
So it's all how the packaging, like that package that you have, Fluff, that package is a Mylar bag.
Right.
That Mylar bag, unless it gets a hole or something in it, that will last for almost probably about 3 more years after
Right.
the
And
expiration
the
date.
key is smell everything. Because I've
Yes.
had stuff say Best Buy 2020 blah blah blah, and it smelled funky. You don't want to eat it
Yeah.
because maybe it was packaged inappropriately or whatever.
Right.
So always smell your stuff. But this, when he brought them home and he showed it to me, and I was like, wait a minute, that's a huge, like, you know, they have the smaller bags and then the medium sized bags, but this
Yeah.
one's 11 ounces. Now, if rationed properly, it tells me right here that there's about 3.5 servings per container. So it's about a third a cup of tuna.
Right.
Um,
Hey,
this,
Deanna says, how are you doing, my favorite little cryptid?
this is probably at least, I want to say 4 servings of food, to be honest with you. 4 servings
Right.
of meat, protein, pure
Yes.
protein, and DHA, omega 3s, things
Yep.
that if that is a considerable dietetic need for you, like DHA,
Yes.
some people supplement with that.
Yes.
This is something you could put easily 10 of these in a tote,
Yep.
and it takes up no room. Their
Right.
weight, it's 11 ounces, so I mean it's almost a pound of meat.
It's 11 ounces. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it says it right there at the top. But it's, about a pound of meat, just slightly less. And you can mix this with the Knorr noodles when you're cooking
Yep.
them, and because I know Nubs was joking, talking about Tuna Helper. And
Yep.
we're like, you can make your own.
Yep.
Because Knorr makes a creamy noodle. What is
Yes.
it? Just an
They
Alfredo
have,
noodle.
yeah, they
Add a
have an
little,
Alfredo noodle. They have a chicken Parmesan noodle. They have everything.
yeah, and you throw a couple of scoops of this in there, and you have your Tuna Helper. That is a actual meal. And the best thing to be cognizant of is how much of something do you need? Not how much do you want, but how much do you need to survive, to
Yes.
maintain a nutritional ability within your body. So
Yes.
something like this would feed my entire family for a day. My family of 4,
Yep.
family of 5, for an entire day, 3 meals.
Yep.
And then I could add in, some fruit or something if I needed to. And I'm
Right.
not relying on an MRE. I'm not
Right.
relying on a, government issued item that may or may not supply the nutrition I need. I've got a lot less sodium. I've
Correct.
got a lot less that's going to back me up, because as we talked
Yes.
about before, MREs clog you up pretty good.
Yep.
This one is the smaller one. It's
Yeah, and then they have the smaller ones that and this little tiny bag has 17 grams of protein in it. Okay.
Yep.
And it's
And that's
about
what you have to look for.
yeah, and it's got about 2.6 ounces of meat in it. And it's got, they have them already pre-seasoned, like lemon pepper, ranch, whatever.
Yep.
And I always keep these around. Like, these are a staple. The tuna packs, I know some people don't like seafood, but when you're hungry, you'll eat.
Yes.
They're lightweight.
It's just like vegetarians. I tell them, I say, when you're hungry enough, you're going to eat meat. It doesn't matter.
You know,
Even if it's
it,
a couple of bites, you know.
yes,
If you get hungry enough, I'm a 4-course meal.
Oh,
It's
shut
really
up.
easy.
Quit
oh
trying to
yeah,
get Matt to eat you. But that was,
cannibalism.
well, that was something else I was going to touch on, was being able to eat in extreme situations, like with the people that, with the plane accident, that actually
yeah,
had to turn to cannibalism to
yes,
survive. Your instincts will kick in to be like, all right, if you die, I'm going to eat you. Like, and I
correct,
joke with Fluff where I'm like, if you die, I'm probably going to eat you. And
yeah,
he's like, are you serious? And I was like, if
yeah,
it meant me and my kids surviving, I'm cooking
yes,
something on you. Like, I'm cooking a leg or something. Like,
right.
because
I
that's
mean,
that's some eating right there. And I would, to be honest, in extreme situations, I would tell him, don't tell my kids they're eating mom, but cook
yeah,
mom. Like,
yeah,
figure something out. Feed people. Like, I know it's just a disgusting thought, but if it can survive, then do what you got to do. It's the same thing as eating, a cow or a chicken or whatever.
yeah.
But a
There
lot of
was
people,
a there was a Romanian story. It was in the valley, and it was a small village in like the 1800s. I think it was like 1820, something like that. And something was going on, and the rain just kept raining, and it rained for almost 2 months straight, and it started flooding. And this group of children, like not children, but teenagers, like from 18 to 20, like 22, there was four of them, and they were escaping because their house got flood. I mean, their houses got flooded, and they climbed up this hill, and there was well, it looked abandoned to them, log cabin out there, and they ended up going into the house. Oh God, sorry, I swallowed a fly while I was doing a report. Anyways, but there was a older gentleman in there, and they asked if they could stay with him, and he said, "Yes, you can stay with me until the rain succeeds." And during that whole entire time, they only brought a few supplies with them that they could grab, and like a loaf of bread, like 2 loaves of bread, some vegetables, and that was it. But at that time, there was no canned
right.
food or anything. And one of them had a chicken. Well, they started rationing food, and after the third week, the rain started pouring up so much and they were running out of food. And the old man played drawing sticks. Whoever took the shortest stick had to go and try to find food. And whoever drew the shortest stick went out at night and was trying to find food. The old man would go into the woods and kill that person and bring back fresh food the next morning, fresh meat. And it it went on and went on and went on, and the last person finally realized what he was eating, because he made a stew and he saw an eyeball float up from the stew, and tried to end up killing the old man, and the old man ended up shooting him. And it's one of those horrible stories, like in extreme circumstances, that will happen.
Oh yeah. A human mind, when it is in starvation mode, becomes very primal. And that primal nature of I need to eat, things start looking appetizing that weren't exactly appetizing before. but also you're draining the mind of, it goes into psychosis. I'm so hungry, like that's the only thing. It's, like an addict of any sort, they only focus on what they need. I need this. I need to eat, or I need whatever, you will sit there and be like, can I handle eating this if it was cooked properly? And if that actually makes your mouth water a little bit, you'll attempt it.
Yep.
So, and I just tell people, like, God forbid we ever end up in those situations where you would look at somebody that was, somebody you cared about as a possible meal. But like I told Fluff, if I die from starvation first, feed everybody else off of me. Give people an extra week of life by being
Yes.
able to roast what would have gone bad,
Right.
just remove it from your mind. Like, God will forgive you, trust me.
Yeah. I mean, it was to help you, help you survive.
Yep. And it's an extreme, we think of it in a horrific sense, like horror movie gore sense. But in those situations where the mind is literally at a loss for everything, and that's its chance of survival, it will go into that mode of, I'm going to eat. I have to
Right.
eat, and things will happen from there. No, I'm not saying everybody will. There are some people out there that would probably starve to death before consuming another human being.
Right.
No fault to them. It's just their mind would just shut down at the thought. But
Yeah.
there are others that have the survival instinct. They'll eat you. If
Yeah.
it came down to it, they'll eat you.
Yeah.
But
I
I told
mean, the 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 first Emperor of China's army, they had war dogs, but they also had cats, and they also had other stray dogs and everything in their army to be used as rations when the regular food and rice ran out. And they would
yeah,
kill those animals and eat them.
right. And I also tell people, I don't know if you find this to be common too, Matt, but I know a lot of survivalists like to pack or keep in preparation rice and other grains, things that absorb a lot
Yes.
of water.
Yes.
I try to get people to go towards beans more than grains that absorb water, because if you aren't able to ration out your water source enough,
Right.
and you undercook these items or underhydrate them, they will pull water from your body to hydrate
Yes.
after you've consumed. So
Yes.
I personally tell people that rice, it's a bulker item. It doesn't have a
Yep.
substantial nutritional value other than carbohydrate. So
Yes.
energy, but short-term energy. And noodles and things like that. I know we show people like the Nor bags and stuff, which are
Hmm.
all rehydratables. Um,
Yes.
be careful when push comes to shove, at those times, and finding ready available water sources, might be scarce for you.
Oh yeah.
Rice and all those rehydratables are going to be a commodity of making sure they're properly hydrated, so they
Right.
don't actually pull additional water from you at a time where you don't have enough water in you,
Yep.
and
A
causing you to to dehydrate and pull nutrition out of you versus supplementing you.
right.
So I know a lot of people sit there and they're like, well, I'm going to go out and buy 10 pounds of rice. And that's a
Yeah.
great idea. But if you're not too familiar with, preparation of rice or anything like that,
Yeah.
these can be items that pull moisture from your body and hydration from you. So just be mindful of that. Uh, Granted, anything that's going to last a long term is going to be a dehydrated item, but
Yes.
that's something that I always try to touch base on, because grains seem to pull more in their cooking process water. and stuff like that. And if they are undercooked, they will still continue to pull that moisture, even if it's in
Oh,
your gut.
oh
What
yeah.
I've noticed is with beans, though, not as much. They don't tend to pull as much moisture after consumption.
Yeah,
Um,
beans
legumes, things like
beans
that.
are the only vegetable, like ground vegetable, that takes limited amount of water to like if you're working on your garden and everything, beans are the one ground vegetable that you can water less and
Right.
it will grow. And it's the same thing, as long as you can get it to where it's if it's over, like a lot of people in through trail hiking and stuff like that, they will put the beans in a small container of water and let it soak all day long
Right.
and eat it cold because it's absorbing that water, and you still have almost a half a cup of water left over after the
Yeah,
beans have
exactly.
absorbed it. Hey, Ghost, how you doing? And but that's another thing, during SHTF, we, like what we said earlier, this world is too pampered that there's
Yeah,
a
very.
fast food restaurant on every street corner. There is, that the majority of people do not know how to cook in general. And that goes for a lot of preppers also. They have all this back stock and everything, but they do not know how to use. That's why you see a majority of preppers only stocking canned items or MREs
Right.
because they don't know how to cook rice or anything.
Exactly. Like that was something that dawned on me like when I was watching a prepper, um one of my favorite prepper channels, and he was talking about a lot of people really going after grains, and he said grains are great, but they're not something that should be the staple in anybody's prep pack or prep mindset because of the amount of water that they take in order to prepare properly.
Yes.
So like and not so much grains of like, oatmeal, I guess if you were making it in a hot cereal versus a bar, a nutritional
Right.
bar or anything. But even after you've consumed it in the bars, in the bar preparation, it still pools water. It still
Yeah.
hydrates. So that was something that, like, when he had said it in his video, I was like, yeah, I totally agree. And I don't hear it said enough. I know a lot of people go and they're like, beans and rice. I'm going to go get beans and rice. And
Right.
I always ask, like, okay, are you
Hey,
making
Carol, sis.
just, and I'm like, are you just simply making rice and beans?
Yeah.
Because um, those things they take water to
Yeah.
cook and hydrate. What is your mindset for those large bulk purchases other than they are cheap? But the idea is, well, when I've asked people, they're like, well, that's what I was told was rice and beans.
Yes.
And I do hear a lot
Because
of that. I do hear a lot of, and I kid you not, I own a ton of rice and beans too. But I've known how to cook those for like since I was 5. So,
same here.
but
What?
as I've gotten older, my biggest component is, or my mindset is, nutritional value to each meal set. So if I'm
Right.
going to be eating, what is it that I'm eating? Why am I eating it? What's it going to do for me?
Take care of trying, brother.
Have a good night, Cheyenne. Hi, Carol.
See, a lot of the things a lot of people get their information from is mostly YouTube, because like I've always said, people learn and people listen to what they see and what they're told. And the majority of survivalists and preppers and everything, they always resort to beans and rice. And and in that mindset, they don't ever answer the people's questions. They don't ever acknowledge the people and tell them how to cook it. They just say, get this and you're on your own pretty much. You know?
And they're both
And
in bulk, they're both
yeah,
very heavy.
yes,
They're a heavy thing to carry if you're putting it in a pack, if
yeah,
you're traveling with it. Rice and beans are heavy, I mean, they're cheap, but they're very heavy. But I would,
so
if
is water.
yeah, and then you have to have the water and all that. And I always tell people, if I had to choose between the two, I'm going for the beans. You
Yep.
know, forget the rice. I mean, because to me that's filler. It's good, but it's just a carbohydrate filler. So
Yes.
when I tell people break down to the nutrition, you're trying to survive, and if you're surviving, you can't survive on pure rice. You can't.
Correct.
It'll fill up your stomach. It will do, but it doesn't do anything that will eventually you're gonna you won't have enough vitamin E in you or vitamin D in you to even move. you
Correct.
know Vitamin K, which you can actually go into paralysis if you don't have enough vitamin K in you. So
Yep.
people don't realize, like, your muscles will seize up. Like, it is an
Oh,
important structure to eat properly. It is imperative, especially in survival situations. So when I see people say the whole rice and beans thing, I'm like, all right, what nutrition's in rice?
right.
And
And it's one of those things, like when these survival channels and everything tell people to stock up on beans and rice, it's for the castle mindset because
yeah,
it's it's not the travel food that you go to. Then and it's more of you're going out to collect the water and everything that you need for the day, and then you come back home to where the majority stocks are in your prepper pantry. And but it still goes back to that whole entire mindset, like what you're saying, with vitamins and everything. They believe they're just going to live on pasta, they're going to live on rice, they're going to live on beans, and that's all they need. And there's only a handful of us that tell people to look outside of the box on everything. But you get a lot of older preppers and all this stuff that are dead set in their ways,
yeah,
and they don't care. If somebody's in their 60s or 70s and somebody in their 30s is trying to tell them, nutrition and everything, they're gonna be like, I've been through, 2 wars and all this stuff, and you know, I know better.
well,
Hey,
see,
Master TV, how you doing?
what I would like to do, um, and this is just because I have kids that are up and coming of age and
Right.
stuff like that, but I do want to spend 1 week full survival wilderness with my daughters, and
Yeah.
Fluff too, and anybody else who just wants to learn to live off your pack. Granted, I, will have the safety net of knowing I can get back to my vehicle if it doesn't work
Yes.
or whatever. But the idea is to test my pack, to test my knowledge, test my strengths, and
Yes.
actually do at least 5 days, but I prefer a week, um, doing the survivor, just out in a forest, out wherever I pick. And
Yeah.
it should be filmed. It should be filmed. Um, but because Fluff was like, should we film it? And I said, yeah, it should be filmed
Yep.
for our own mindset. If we fail, what failed?
Right.
Where did we go wrong? How do we, reevaluate that situation? What went right?
Yes.
And use it as like a documentorial series of like, a wilderness series of being like, look, I tested my pack. I tested my knowledge of how to hunt. I tested my knowledge of how to source fresh water.
Right.
Test it and can you survive?
Yes.
And most people
Yes.
that are preppers, very few, I've noticed, me personally, I've noticed very few have actually gone out and done that. Where they're
Correct.
like, nope, I'm going to live in that tent. I'm going to live off the food I've jarred, canned,
Yep.
done whatever. Because they have it with the comfort of knowing that they may not have to use it.
Right.
And that comfort is enough of a buffer that gives people that luxury parachute. But
Yes.
me, I'm one of those that's like, all right, if I think I have this strength, I will put my money where my mouth is.
Right.
And I will test my pack. I will test my knowledge. Most people can't even tie a knot, a proper knot.
Oh.
That I've
Oh.
noticed. And if I hand somebody a knot, if I have my 16-year-old daughter a rope and go,
Yep.
tie me a standard knot, a
Yep.
survival knot, basic Boy Scout 101, right? Show me
Yep.
this knot. She probably couldn't do it.
Oh yeah.
And the thing
I'll
is,
tell you right now. When I was at the Pathfinder and I was helping and I was teaching basic survivals, and they nobody knew how to do a ridge line. Nobody knew how to do a slip knot. Nobody even knew how to do a Canadian jam knot, let alone a basic knot. They think a basic knot is how you tie your shoes.
right?
And
A simple slip knot
yeah,
will get you so far, but also at what point do you need to know different styles of knots? And things like that. And most people are like, what? What do you like? That's so basic. Let me hand you a piece of rope. Tie me a knot that's going to be able to suspend 50 pounds, 150 pounds, 250 pounds.
yes,
What knot is that? And you will have people just stare at you.
yep,
And a knot is crucial in pulling somebody out from a hole. If you're urbexing, pulling somebody out from a bottom floor or a basement or something,
yes,
or being able to tie it to your car and pull something away or
right,
anything like that. These are basic, like, can you do this? At what point do bungee cords come in? At what point do this, just basic items?
right,
Because some people will be like, I have them in my pack with no knowledge of how to use it, no knowledge of how to sharpen a knife.
right.
A
And
lot of people don't know how to do something like I've learned I can sharpen a sword, but
oh
how
yeah,
often do I really need that? But my father showed me how.
right,
And I will tell people, I was like, I will get that blade so thin that you won't feel me cut you.
yes,
And I tell people I can humanely kill an animal
yeah,
because they'll just end up bleeding out and that'll be that. And
right.
that's what I
And
always
it
tell
will taint the
is,
meat.
yep, and it won't take the meat. And I tell people, get that, figure out what rocks will actually help you sharpen a knife, which ones will dull it.
Right.
Basic, simple things like that. And how to properly hold a knife.
Yes.
I have seen so many people buy a knife and can't hold it properly. They're going to end up hurting themselves worse.
Yep.
And that's things that I've noticed. Like, yeah, I'm going to go out and buy all these preparatory items. You get
I've
people
seen
started
so
on.
many people. I've seen so many people trying to split wood and everything by putting one finger over the tang right on the blade.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going to cut a finger off doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you need to put a finger over the tang? And they say, because it gives me a better grip.
It does
And I was
not.
like,
That's
no.
your mind.
Yeah.
That's a mental thing. Like, nah, if you actually gripped it properly, you wouldn't need to put it over. You wouldn't need to do that. No.
Correct.
But like I said, people not even knowing what the different knives are, like serrated versus standard edge, things like that. What good is a serrated knife for? When do you need it?
Right.
Most people don't even know how to climb a tree. But
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and they don't understand the necessity of that. Like, why do I need to climb a tree? Well, certain things, certain animals aren't going to climb that tree to get you, and some will. You
If
know,
you have a wild boar chasing you, you better get up in a tree or you're going to be gorged to death.
yeah. And so I do want to eventually, won't be able to do it this summer, but eventually take my daughters out and be like, look, we're going to do the wilderness camping. And
Well,
you're going to survive off of common sense and what's in your pack. And
yes.
see how long, like I said, I would love for it to be 5-7 days. It might only get to 3. But
Well,
if I can do that for 3 days and teach them like that the woods will mess with your mind, that you will go into woods and not be able to find your way out. Why is that? Even though you have a
correct.
compass, what happens? Why do you
Yes.
get forest hysteria?
Yes.
How show them what fresh water looks like and how to detect
Yes.
it. Things of that nature that maybe they'll use it in their life, maybe they won't, but if they had
Hopefully
to,
they won't.
they'd be like, all right, I can. My mom taught me, like, don't touch that because that's poisonous. Touch that
Right.
because you can. And that's
Yes.
where I find so much value in that mindset of, making them critical thinkers.
Yes.
And I've always found value in that in myself, and I want to bestow that in my daughters, especially because they're at the age they're at. But also, Fluff doesn't have that common sense approach because his
Right.
family didn't, find the value in doing that for him, taking him out and doing that stuff.
Oh, he
So,
will soon. Oh, he will soon because I'm going to go out there with y'all.
and that's what I told him was, it'll be a good thing when, Matt can show you the basic, like knots and
Yeah.
knife sharpening, just the basic. Okay, if I've got a good knife, I can kill something and I can eat it.
And
Like,
I'll even show him if it's an SHTF situation and he doesn't have a can opener on him, I'll show him how to open a can on a rock with just water.
yeah,
So
there's always
that
something you're going to be able to learn and eventually apply it. If even in a parlor trick situation, look what I can do. You know,
right,
but the fact is, you know how to do it, and that's endless knowledge, and it's in your arsenal of survival.
right.
And I do want to probably, like I said, I kind of want to do it like once in the summer, once in the winter too, because that's two.
Yeah, because you need to know the different biomes.
Yeah, that you should always like because different creatures, different abilities to get
Yes.
water, inabilities to get water.
How
How to
your body reacts in it.
right, and even in different areas of the U.S. Because
Yep.
forest versus desert is completely different. So,
So,
but that's something that it's like you see it on TV where fathers take their sons out, they go
yeah.
camping to learn these things or to utilize what they've learned. And
Yes,
you can
ma'am.
still, you don't even hear dads doing that as often. I know there are some. I can't say you never
Yeah.
do. There are some, but just it is not the regular. You don't go to
It's not the
summer camp
normal.
anymore. Yeah, you don't go to summer camp anymore.
No,
And if you
you don't.
do, it's not the same summer camp that we went to.
Correct.
Where you're like, nope, you're going to go learn how to paddle a canoe. You're going to go learn how to swim in a lake. You're going to learn how
Yes.
to do basic first aid, And
You're
that's
going to
also
know the difference between poison oak and poison ivy. I mean,
exactly. And what happens when
stinging nettles.
what happens when you screw around and fall into that stuff, But there's just so little grasp on what used to be common sense.
Right.
And for us, it's common sense. We grew up with it. But
Yep.
now it's like, oh no, I wouldn't, I don't even know what poison oak looks like. I don't know what, well, you should,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
exists.
Correct. And they're like, oh, that stuff's not in my neck of the woods because I live in Southern California or
They
whatever.
have it in
Bull
Los
crap.
Angeles. It's in
Yeah,
we were hiking a trail up to go to this the wave cave for
right.
up where Manson lived up in Spawn Ranch. The
Yeah.
biggest thing that they tell you is be careful because there's freaking poison oak right there. And I'm like, poison oak, and I'm sitting here telling Fluff and all them, when you get out of those damn woods, you're gonna change your clothes. Don't bring that
Right?
shit in the car because it'll put it itself on your seats, and you'll just
Yes.
keep re-getting it because it's all over
And
everywhere.
and also when the AC hits, it's gonna blow
Yep,
because it's spores.
yep. And I tell people like, just because you're out of the woods doesn't mean it's not all over your clothes.
Yep.
I was
I
like
had
in
a
this.
I was gonna say I had one of the guys that I was teaching basic uh just basic survival to and everything at the Pathfinder. I told him to go get wood and everything, and he comes back and he has these vines that look like wood. And I was like, "What are you doing with that?" And he's like, "I'm going to burn it." I said, "No, you're not." And he's like, "Why?" I said, "Because that's poison oak. Those are poison oak vines. And if you burn it, everybody here is going to die because the poison oak fumes is going to get into your lungs and you're going to suffocate." And he's like, "No way." And I was like, "Yes." And people just don't understand.
Well, it's like I mean, is anybody even in the Boy Scouts anymore? Like,
I
I
haven't
know
seen
that
it. I
I've
haven't even
seen it.
seen Boy Scouts.
Yeah, and but remember they used to teach them. I mean, they didn't
Yeah,
always take them out. Eventually, they would go camping and stuff. But in their
right.
manual, they showed them what poison oak looked like. Why to avoid it, what the
Yeah,
hazards were. Showed the boys how to do knots and how to filter water.
yeah,
Just basic stuff, but the idea of it, it implanted it at least.
yeah,
And I'm like, what happened to the Boy Scouts? Like, I know kids got made fun of for wearing the uniform and shit, but it was helpful.
yeah. I mean, a lot of it was uh, a set mindset. I mean, and a lot of the scouts and everything, they got scoutmasters kind of went to jail for,
Yeah, I get you there.
yeah. So they
Which
kind
is
of,
which is unfortunate, because people. It's just behave yourself so that we can still have nice things. Damn it!
right.
But it used to be your
Yeah, it's
dad
always
taught you. It used to be your dad taught you majority of that stuff, but now the dads nowadays. I hate
yep,
to say it like this, but the dads nowadays were raised on PlayStation and Mountain Dew Code Red and sitting
correct,
at home. So they didn't learn shit. They can't even change the
correct,
oil in their freaking car.
right. They can't even change out a spare tire.
Exactly.
So,
So you go change
but
your own blinker fluid.
I am going to have to get off here. We are going to, sorry to cut you short, Jen, sis, but
You didn't cut me short. I've been short my whole life. No, I need to get to bed too. So,
yes, ma'am.
all right.
But
I guess we will see you next Sunday.
yes, ma'am, we will. And I hope everybody enjoyed this, and I hope everybody enjoys my sister and my co-host Tarot and her knowledge. And we will see y'all on the next Survival and Tea, and it's going to be every Sunday at 11:30 p.m. Central Texas time. So,
Y'all take care and survive.
yes. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
And
everyone.
we're going to do the closeout. 3, 2, 1.
I think we're still live.
Yeah. The Oh my goodness.